This is the question that we're going through today. Also, yesterday we hit 30 subscribers. I really appreciate all of you. And with our new YouTube fame, I've decided to move this studio to outer space. I'm only having a laugh. Let's do this question. So here's the question on the virtual whiteboard. It says we need to multiply. And we need to assume that u, v, and w are greater than or equal to 0. And we need to write the answer in the simplest form. So what does it want us to do? It wants us to multiply this one by this one. And we need to write our answer in the simplest form possible. Okay, so I'm going to start this by rewriting those numbers and letters with a little bit more space between them, so it's easier to work with. So the first one says 7. There's a 154, there's a u squared, a v squared, and a w. The second one, 63, u cubed, w to the power of 5. Okay, so far so good. Now we know that we're multiplying them together. When we multiply surds, we multiply the surd by the surd and the integer in front by the integer in front. Well, it's just a 7, and there's nothing in front of the other one, so that's a 1. So 7 times 1 is just 7. So that stays as it is. And with the surds, we multiply them together. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put them all under the same root. And I'm going to show that they've been multiplied together. So I'm going to put multiplication signs in there. So these are all multiplied together. Okay, so we've simplified it a little. Now we can recognize that there are some like terms. We've got some numbers, 154 and 63. We've got some letter u's, so we've got u squared and u cubed. We've got a letter v. And we've got some w's. We've got a w on its own. Well, a w on its own is the same as saying w to the power of 1. So I'm going to write that power of 1 next to that one, just so I don't forget. And I've also got w to the power of 5. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite all of this as grouped pairs. So we're going to leave the 7 on the outside. As it is, it's going to stay there. Now I'm going to focus on the numbers. I've got 154 times 63, and I'm just going to write it like that. So 154 times 63, and that's in its own root. Okay, so far so good. Now let's do the letter u. So we've got u squared times u cubed. And when we're multiplying indices, we add the powers. So u to the power of 2 times u to the power of 3. It's 2, add 3 makes 5, so it's u to the power of 5. So let's write that in, times u to the power of 5, but that's still inside a square root. So far so good. And the next one is the v's. Well, there's only one v squared, so we'll leave that as v squared inside the square root, and we'll simplify that in a second. I know that can be simplified, but we'll do that in a second. And the last one is the w's, so w to the 1 times w to the 5. And again, when we're multiplying indices, we can add the powers. So 1 add 5 is 6. So that's w to the 6 inside a square root. Okay, so now we've broken it up into like terms. So now let's focus on just the numbers, 154 and 63. Now with those two, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them up into their factors first. So let's take the number 154. Let's break 154 into its factors. So we'll write it here, 154. Let's break it down into its factors. I know that's 22 times 7. And the 22 we can break down into 11 times 2. So that is 11 times 2 times 7. So let's rewrite that as 11 times 2 times 7. So that's that bit done. Okay, so far so good. How about 63? Well, 63 is an easy one. We know that 63 is 7 times 9. So we'll write that as well. 7 times 9. So far so good. And again, that is still inside a square root. And we still have that number 7 on the outside. Okay. Now, we can recognize that 7 times 7 is the same as saying 49. So I'm going to rub that out. And I'm going to write the number 49 in there. Okay. Now, can we apply the square root to any of those numbers? Well, we can't apply it to the 11. We can't apply it to the 2. But 49, we can square root the number 49. And the 9, we can square root that as well. The square root of 49 is 7. So we've taken that out. It's no longer inside the square root because we've used the square root. And the square root of 9 is 3. And again, that's no longer inside the square root because we've used the square root on it. So what do we have now? We have 7 times 3. Well, 7 times 7 is 49. Multiplied by 3 is 147. So 147 goes on the outside. And inside the square root, we still have the 11 times 2. Well, 11 times 2 is 22. So I'm going to write that as root 22. And we'll leave it like that for the moment. And you'll see why I've left a gap in a second. Let's move on to the u to the power of 5 square rooted. Well, u to the power of 5 is the same as saying u to the power of 4 times u to the power of 1, or just u. And that's still square rooted. Now we can apply the square root to the u to the power of 4. Well, u to the power of 4 square rooted. Square root is the second root. And all you do is you divide them. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's like saying u squared. So if we simplify that out, well, we've got a u squared on the outside. And we still have the letter u on the inside. So that's still a root u. So I'm going to keep that. Okay, so far so good. So we've done the letter u. Let's move on to the next one. The square root of v squared. Well, square root is second root. V squared, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that's like just saying the letter v. So I'm going to put the letter v on the outside. And that's fully simplified. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the letter w. W to the 6 square rooted. And again, it's second root. Square root is the second root. And 6 divided by that 2 is 3. So we can rewrite all of that as w to the power of 3. So now we're nearly complete. But what we can do is we can recognize that root 22 times root u is the same as saying the root of 22u. And we still have all those numbers and letters on the outside. So we still have the 147, we still have the u squared, we still have the letter v, and we still have the w to the power of 3. And that is the answer. And that is all it takes. The key skills which I used in this question were factor decomposition, simplification of indices, and simplification of surds. If you want to copy down or take a screenshot of the solution, you can pause the video in 3, 2, 1. And if you want to learn any of these topics in a lot more detail, I offer one-to-one private tutoring. Visit my website www.skittles.school to book a free demo lesson. If you found this video helpful, a like would be super awesome, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our future videos. Okay, until the next one, keep learning and keep being awesome.